Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has placed significant emphasis on what he describes as corridor development, as a cornerstone of his administration's vision for economic growth and modernization. This approach, while intended to accelerate urbanization, connectivity, and industrial expansion, has become a flashpoint for human rights abuses, displacement, and social unrest, particularly in Addis Ababa. The city, which serves as Ethiopia's capital and largest urban center, has seen widespread upheaval under the guise of development. This narrative unpacks the implications of Abiy Ahmed's corridor development initiatives, their impact on Addis Ababa's long-standing communities, and the resulting human cost. What is corridor development? Abiy Ahmed's concept of corridor development aligns with global trends in urban planning and economic expansion. It involves creating well-defined zones of infrastructure and industrial growth. These corridors typically include transportation hubs, industrial parks, commercial centers, and residential developments aimed at modernizing Ethiopia's economy. The plan reflects Abiy's ambition to position Ethiopia as a regional powerhouse by attracting foreign investment and boosting domestic production. However, Ethiopia's corridor development strategy has been criticized for prioritizing economic metrics over the welfare of its people. In Addis Ababa, this strategy often entails the demolition of long-established neighborhoods to make way for modern infrastructure and urban projects. The human consequences have been severe, particularly for vulnerable populations who lack legal protections or avenues for recourse. Uprooting generational communities. One of the most contentious aspects of Abiy's corridor development efforts is the forced displacement of Addis Ababa residents. Many of these individuals and families have lived in the city for generations, contributing to its cultural and social fabric. Despite their deep roots, they have been treated as obstacles to progress. Displacement often occurs with little to no warning. Residents have reported waking up to bulldozers and demolition crews outside their homes, with no prior notification or alternative housing arrangements. This lack of preparation leaves families, including those with young children and elderly members, in dire circumstances. Their homes are destroyed, possessions lost, and livelihoods disrupted, creating a cascade of hardships. Atrocities and human rights violations. The government's handling of these displacements has been marred by egregious human rights abuses. Families are frequently thrown out of their homes without consideration for their safety or dignity. Basic needs such as food, shelter, and medical care are disregarded, leaving displaced individuals exposed to extreme conditions. One of the most shocking outcomes of this upheaval has been the increase in attacks by wild animals. In some instances, children who were left unsupervised after evictions were reportedly attacked and, tragically, snatched by hyenas. Such incidents underscore the lack of foresight and empathy in the government's approach, as well as the dire consequences of its negligence. The broader context of Addis Ababa is a city of contrasts. It is both a symbol of Ethiopia's history and a canvas for its future. The city's neighborhoods, many of which are informal settlements, have provided affordable housing for low-income families for decades. These areas, however, are now seen as prime real estate for redevelopment. This tension between preservation and modernization has fueled much of the conflict surrounding corridor development. For Abiy Ahmed's administration, Addis Ababa is a critical focal point for implementing its economic vision. Yet this vision seems to disregard the rights and voices of its residents. Instead of engaging with communities to find solutions that balance development with social equity, the government has pursued an approach that prioritizes rapid progress at any cost. International response and accountability. The international community has been slow to respond to these developments. While Ethiopia receives significant foreign aid and investment, there has been little pressure on the government to uphold human rights in its corridor development projects. This lack of accountability has emboldened the administration to continue its practices unchecked. Human rights organizations have called for investigations into the forced displacements and related abuses. They argue that Ethiopia's development must not come at the expense of its citizens' dignity and well-being. However, these calls have yet to translate into meaningful action or policy changes. The human cost of development. The human cost of Abiy Ahmed's corridor development initiatives cannot be overstated. Families who lose their homes often face homelessness, unemployment, and social marginalization. Children are pulled out of school, and the elderly lose the stability they rely on in their later years. The psychological toll of such abrupt and traumatic displacement is immense, compounding the physical and economic challenges faced by those affected. In the case of Addis Ababa, the situation is particularly dire. The city's long-standing communities are being dismantled piece by piece, erasing a rich history in the name of modernization. The government's actions have not only disrupted lives, but also deepened mistrust between citizens and the state. A path forward. A balanced approach to development addressing the challenges of Ethiopia's corridor development initiatives requires a comprehensive, people-centered approach. For development to succeed without leaving vulnerable communities behind, the government must implement measures that prioritize inclusivity, transparency, and respect for human rights. Below are detailed strategies that could help Ethiopia balance modernization with the welfare of its people. 1. Engage communities as stakeholders. Development projects must include the voices of those directly affected. This involves community consultations. Before initiating corridor projects, the government should organize open forums to discuss plans with affected communities. This would provide residents the opportunity to share their concerns and propose solutions. Participatory planning. Establish committees that include local leaders, urban planners, and community representatives. These committees can ensure that development projects address the needs of all stakeholders. Cultural sensitivity. Many neighborhoods in Addis Ababa have unique cultural and historical significance. Projects should respect and preserve this heritage by incorporating it into redevelopment plans. Benefits. This approach fosters trust between the government and citizens, reduces resistance, and ensures smoother implementation of projects. 2. Ensure fair compensation and resettlement support. Displacement must be handled with care to minimize harm to families and communities. This includes adequate notice. Residents should be informed of planned evictions well in advance, with clear timelines and procedures for relocation. Fair compensation. Compensation should reflect the true value of the properties being demolished and cover the costs of relocation and rebuilding. Alternative housing. The government should provide new homes to displaced families, located near their original neighborhoods when possible, to maintain social networks. Support services. Displaced individuals should have access to financial aid, counseling, job training, and other resources to help them adapt to their new circumstances. Benefits. By addressing the immediate needs of displaced families, the government can reduce homelessness, unemployment, and social disruption. 3. Strengthen legal protections for residents. Ethiopia needs robust legal frameworks to prevent abuses during development projects. Key measures include eviction protocols. Introduce clear legal procedures for evictions, ensuring they are carried out lawfully and humanely. Right to appeal. Residents should have the right to challenge eviction orders in court and receive a fair hearing. Oversight mechanisms. Establish independent bodies to monitor compliance with eviction laws and investigate abuses. Benefits. Legal safeguards protect vulnerable populations from arbitrary displacement and ensure accountability in the development process. 4. Prioritize social and environmental impact assessments. Before initiating corridor development projects, thorough assessments should be conducted to evaluate their potential impact. This includes social impact assessments. Analyze how projects will affect local communities, focusing on displacement, livelihoods, and social cohesion. Environmental impact assessments. Consider how projects will affect ecosystems and biodiversity, ensuring sustainable development. Mitigation strategies. Develop plans to address any negative outcomes identified in these assessments. Benefits. These assessments ensure that projects are designed with a holistic understanding of their consequences, minimizing harm. 5. Promote inclusive economic development. Corridor development should create opportunities for all citizens, particularly those most affected. Key initiatives include job creation. Ensure that displaced residents are prioritized for employment opportunities in new industrial and commercial developments. Affordable housing. Build housing that is accessible to low and middle-income families to prevent the exclusion of vulnerable groups. Skills training. Provide vocational training programs to help displaced individuals gain skills needed for employment in the modern economy. Benefits. Inclusive economic policies help reduce inequality and ensure that development benefits everyone. 6. Emphasize transparency and accountability. Lack of transparency has been a major issue in Ethiopia's corridor development projects. To build public trust, the government should publish project plans, make detailed plans, budgets, and timelines for development projects publicly available, engage independent auditors, invite independent organizations to review project implementation and expenditures, establish grievance mechanisms, create accessible channels for residents to report abuses or file complaints. Benefits: transparency reduces corruption and fosters public confidence in the government's development agenda. 7. Preserve Addis Ababa's social and cultural fabric. The rich history and diverse communities of Addis Ababa are integral to Ethiopia's identity. Development plans should include heritage conservation, identify and protect culturally significant sites and neighborhoods, community integration, design new developments to include existing residents rather than displacing them, preserving social networks, public spaces, invest in parks, community centers, and other public amenities to enhance the quality of urban life. Benefits: by valuing cultural heritage, the government can create a city that honors its past while embracing its future. 8. Strengthen international partnerships and standards. Ethiopia can benefit from collaboration with international organizations and adherence to global best practices. This involves adopting global guidelines, implement standards such as the UN's basic principles on development-based evictions and displacement, securing ethical investments, work with international investors who prioritize social responsibility and sustainability, leveraging aid, use foreign aid to fund resettlement programs and social infrastructure. Benefits: international support can provide the financial and technical resources needed to achieve equitable development. A new vision for development for Ethiopia to thrive. Development must uplift its people rather than marginalize them. Abiy Ahmed's vision of corridor development has the potential to transform the country, but only if it is implemented with care, inclusivity, and respect for human rights. By adopting a balanced approach, Ethiopia can ensure that progress is not achieved at the cost of its citizens' dignity and well-being. This path forward offers a roadmap for a more just and sustainable future, one where Ethiopia's growth reflects the aspirations of all its people. Conclusion: Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's corridor development agenda has brought both promise and peril to Ethiopia. While it aims to transform the country into a modern economic hub, its implementation in Addis Ababa has highlighted the dangers of unchecked ambition. The forced displacement of long-standing communities and the accompanying human rights abuses demand urgent attention. For Ethiopia to truly progress, it must ensure that development serves its people, not the other way around. Once again, thank you for watching. If you found our content helpful, please subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us grow and ensures you never miss updates. Don't forget to like this video. It lets us know we're on the right track. And share it with others who might benefit. Your engagement makes a big difference and helps us reach more viewers like you. Thank you.